to the Dean Bond Music Podcast Show, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Here we are. Welcome to the Dean Bond Music Podcast Show. We got everything planned over here. Hold on a second. I got it all planned. We're bringing Stephen St. James in right now. He's in the waiting room. And let's see if he makes it in real quick. Should take a minute to fire up. I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. If you're in the chat room, please ask questions. And we will be taking call-ins for Stephen St. James tonight. So I want to thank everyone for tuning into the show. I hope I'm not too early at 6:01, so I don't catch you off guard. And Stephen, how are you doing this evening?
Actually, I'm doing great. It's hot like crazy outside, and we got the curtains closed, but got great lighting, so we're good. About 93 degrees outside.
And it's 111 out here in Las Vegas.
Oh my gosh, yeah, but you guys have that all the time.
Well, yeah,
we live up in the Pacific Northwest where it snows in the winter.
I'm glad you could make it, and yeah, you showed up early. I appreciate that, so we can have a little chat. And we actually had a pretty good conversation. I said, save it for the interview because, we're going to talk. We want the audience to hear the stories as well. And we were going back and forth with the old band and Rick Fox and the new band and Jakey Lee. We were telling stories, but I kind of just want to introduce you real quick to everyone, and I'll let you take it from there. Everyone, this is Stephen St. James, and he's done a lot, and he came all the way from Motown into the legendary rock and roll band Rough Cutt, but he's done a lot in between, so I'll let him fill in the gaps. But say hi to the audience, and here you go.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the evening. We ought to make this fun, and look forward to answering questions if they come up. So
and please ask questions, everyone. Get in the chat room there, and tell your friends to chime in too as well. And actually the commercial, just so you know, Stephen, it got a lot of attention. I think over 93 views for a commercial is a lot. Normally I just get 20 or 30. Yeah. So somebody out there wants to see you.
Who knows? It might be my friends. I got literally an MTV tribute band that I work with right now, a cover band.
Yeah.
And I posted this link there. So I got a lot of,
good.
Just got a lot of responses there. And then on my personal Facebook, I got a lot of responses there as well.
Good. So, because we're going to play some music tonight. We're going to play a little video, The Black Rose, which you co-wrote, which is a great song. I've been watching that video and playing some of your music. And they're going to go all the way back, to your Motown days. So I'm just going to kind of start the whole thing off with, going back. First of all, to your childhood, how did you even get involved with music? Was your parents influential, or just tell me that story, how you even got into music?
Absolutely. I grew up in well, I told you I was born in Bronx, New York, but
that's right.
We moved real. My parents didn't want us growing up in Bronx, rough place. So we moved to Los Angeles, and from downtown Los Angeles, which wasn't that much better, just another big city. My dad and my mom moved to another place called Carson. Well, we got there in the 60s, and Carson was actually a nice place. We went to church, very Pentecostal, a lot of music, a lot of singing. So my two sisters, they're both older, both really good singers. So they would do duets in church, and what happened was that they're saying, well, Stephen, I think by now, maybe I was 6, 7, 8 years old, and they said, he sings good. He just tends to inherently know harmonies. So they got me to do, third harmonies, and I'd learn the songs, and we'd just sing in church. And, they were doing it for God's glory, and I was just like, I kind of like people clapping for me.
Well, you realized then you had a voice back then, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's literally where it started. My sister went into drama in high school, plays in high school. So by the time I got to high school, I remember going into her drama teacher, and I said, my sister told me to talk to you, and this is between semesters or whatever, and I said to do singing or acting or whatever. He goes, are you as good as your sister? And by then I was cocky as hell. I was like, I think 15 years old. I was like, oh, I'm better than she is. And, I ended up in school plays.
No, were you playing
I
an
did not.
instrument? Were you playing a guitar back then?
No, no,
Not yet.
I didn't even pick up. I picked up. We'll get to that,
Okay.
but I didn't pick that up till way later.
I got you. Okay.
But what happened was I didn't know that we were your semester for drama was one play. You were gonna go through the whole year singing, part of the choir, part of the the elite singers or whatever, and then I did not know that the crew, the people that set up props and did all the paintings for the background plays, that was a separate class. It was all tied into the same teacher, but they were a separate class. So while we were rehearsing singing and it wasn't your part, they told you to go wait somewhere else. So I walked into the other room, and this is maybe 1973, 74. They're in there playing China Grove,
Doobies.
Doobie
Yeah.
Brothers,
Yeah.
and the guitar player, he's like, "Hey, Stevie, do you know this song?" I was like, "Yeah, I know that song. Do you want to sing it?" So I got behind the mic and sang it, and they were all ooh ah, And he goes, "Hey, listen, why don't you come to sports night on Friday?" I was naive as hell. I thought sports night was actually for sports. I didn't know it meant concerts. So I told, my parents, they wouldn't. They're, "You're not going to a concert." It's like, I told them, "Hey, I'm going to sports night." They're, "Sure, go." So I went, and they said, "Hey, we got a special guest who's going to come up and sing some songs with us." And I think I remember singing. Well, I sang China Grove. I distinctly remember singing it was a soul song,
No.
um, by a guy. It was Jimmy Castor Bunch, and the song was called "The Bertha Butt Boogie."
Bertha Butt
And
Boogie. I like
that might be way before you, but
that.
they asked me to join the band, and it was a school sponsored band. So we went out and we played anything from Chicago to Earth, Wind and Fire to the Eagles to uh, what is it again, the Doobie Brothers.
The Doobies.
And we do that do this at different schools, in Los Angeles. And then when graduation time came up, they all graduated. I was still in 11th grade by that point, and so I was like, "Well, that was fun." I figured that was it. Some guy comes up to me at school and he goes, "Hey, I saw you sing with that band out on the quad. You were really good. You want to join a band?" I was like, "Well, sure." And so it was a garage band. I went from being in the school band with like 12, 13 people with horns and everything to
Right. Right.
doing Kiss songs. you
So
know,
you just took the leap
yeah,
for yeah.
and I graduated high school. Just went into work, work, work. I tried college. It just for some reason it did not take. But I back then you'd go to music stores, record stores, and there'd always be like little bulletin boards with little cutouts. Looking for singer. Looking for guitar player with the little paper strips that you tear off for the phone numbers.
Right. Right.
And that was about 2 years or maybe 1 year out, and eventually found one garage band after the next garage band after the next one. But that's kind of where it all started.
Well, you kind of moved pretty quick then. If you were about 15 years old and you got into rock and roll, well,
Mm-hmm.
how old were you? Was your first professional rock and roll gig or on stage that where you really started to get moving in rock and roll or just in music,
um,
period?
so what happened was that um, I joined a band. They asked me to sing with them, and the two guitar players are brothers. One of them's passed away, but the other one, for a little while, I think he played guitar for Bullet Boys too. His name was Tom Pittum.
No, yeah.
Um, and we were playing heavier songs like UFO, Judas Priest, that type of stuff. And these guys were both GIT grads, Tom and Doug Pittum,
Mm.
the Guitar Institute. So we started doing Gazaris,
Oh, yeah. I
and
remember Gazaris.
Gazaris on the Strip. There was a place out in Torrance, California called the Das Heimat House, and they started doing Thursday night concerts there. At one point, we were playing with. This is during the skinny tie era,
Oh,
like
yeah. Like the babies,
79,
kind of the babies, John
right? And
Waite,
we
kind
were,
of.
yeah, and but these were more of the punker ones, and we were
Okay.
playing with a
Dead
band
Kennedys.
called Rubber City Rebels. and they had this hit song, "You're So Young and Dumb." But we opened for them, and we caused such a ruckus that the cops just got pissed. They were like banging on the doors. Some girl, I was wearing suspenders and spandex pants. Remember, you'd go to like girls' stores in the mall and buy spandex pants because they looked cool.
Well, I only shopped in the female section. That's the only thing that would fit me. It looked cool, you know.
So some girl grabbed my suspender and it bent and it turned into a blade. It sliced my ass and it opened my pants up. And I'm like holding on to my pants on one side because I'm not wearing underwear or whatever. And I'm finishing the show like this. The cops would grab me and drag me off and yelled at me. And everybody's like, oh, this is great, you know. But at Gazzari's, we saw Rat. And this was Steve Piercy, Chris Hager.
Chris Hager.
And me and Chris would. Do you remember Gil Turner's Liquor across the street from Gazzari's?
Actually, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
That would have been early 80s right there.
Yeah. So I think this might have been right around 1980, 81. And he and I would always we were each other's biggest fan club. And it's just like, hey, we should start a band. And that's how Sarge became a thing. Okay. You know, it was just him and I. We started working out kind of an idea for what kind of music we wanted to play, what kind of look we wanted to have. And the name Sarge just came up because, you know, back then kids watched a lot of war movies. Sarge, they got me, you know. But we ended up developing a kind of a show. But what we did was he says, you know what, rather than jump into clubs, let's start at backyard parties. So we were all over the place in the valley, and what we would do is we would play, you know, a lot of cover songs, but then we would throw in originals. But I was like, hey, don't tell anybody it's original. Don't, you know, just don't say anything. You know, because what happens is when you say it's an original, then suddenly there's that expectancy. The folded arms will show me.
Oh, I'm not going to know this song.
Right. So you just threw the song in. Okay, well, here we're playing Shoot by UFO, and then we're playing Take You Down, and then we're playing this song by Judas Priest. And after people started singing along, they'd start asking us, well, what song is this or what song is that? And it was like, oh, that's one of ours. That's one of ours. And we started developing.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I like that. We started developing a pretty decent following. So the first time we played the Troubadour, I think, was a Wednesday or a Thursday night. And, you know, we were in either the late or early slot, and we had a crowd. Troubadour liked that. So, hey, you're getting moved to a better night, and I think you had to start on a Wednesday or Thursday, and then you move to a weekend or something like that. Right, and eventually we started moving to open it up weekends, but we were drawing bigger crowds than a lot of the bands that were you know, headlining. Right. And by '82, you know, by '82, I forget what, I know what it was, and this is how we actually met Stormer. Is I was working out in Torrance at some optical company, you know, just warehouse work, forklifts and stuff like that. And Chris calls me, hey, it's Memorial Day weekend, you know, this weekend. I think it's a Wednesday or something like that. And I go, yeah. And he goes, can you call in sick tomorrow? I go, why? And he goes, well, we got a gig in Phoenix, Arizona. I was like, really? And he goes, yeah. I said, when? And he goes, well, Friday and Saturday, but we got to drive out there. So that's great. Are we the only band? He goes, no, we're playing with Stormer. We already knew Stormer. You know, we'd seen him before, and you know, we're kind of friends with each other and whatever. Yeah. So we packed up all our stuff and we took off to Arizona, and we played with Stormer. 2 nights turned into 3 nights. What happened was that the club told us, hey, you know, we'd like you guys to stay on an extra night. Well, somewhere between those 2 nights, we got a call from the Whiskey. We played there as openers or whatever, and they're saying, hey, we'd like you to headline the Whiskey. You guys got a good crowd, and that's how that came to be. You know, suddenly we're headliners, and I didn't know until about 3 or 4 years ago that date where we played with, you know, us, Stormer, Metallica, and then, you know, Greg Leon. I don't know why his name's so tiny, probably because it couldn't fit it. But did you say Greg Leon? Yeah, if you look underneath, I can see it. I didn't even notice that. I know Greg Leon. Yeah, Greg. Well, that guy was massively talented. You know, he played with Tommy, my friend Tommy Lee. He played with Tom. Yeah. Exactly. So, well, if you know Greg, then you know how talented the guy was. Not just a
Yeah,
great guitarist, he was a great singer.
great guy.
Everything
Yeah,
about that guy. But
met him a few times.
we were doing an interview across the street, and that's how that photo came to be. Because besides
Okay.
that photo, there's a black and white picture of us across the street, and then there's one of me just in regular, not Sarge clothes, just in regular clothes, but they're all black and white photos. So the lady was asking us, well, do you know who the other bands are? And we're like, yeah, we're friends with Stormer. They're all great guys, and we know Greg Leon. Everybody knows Greg Leon. You can't be on the Sunset Strip. And she goes, well, what about this Metallica? And we're looking at each other and sort of like, I don't
So
know.
nobody knew Metallica back then.
I'm sure somebody did.
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
parents probably or whatever. Because I saw plenty of gigs in every one of these places on the Sunset
Oh
Strip
my
where
God.
parents were just like, "Oh my God, they're superstars,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
That's crazy.
but I think I might have talked to them, but talked to somebody from the band before, maybe upstairs and backstage,
Yeah.
and I remember, nice people, but had no idea what they were about. And by the time they were up playing, we're all outside, either outside hanging out, with Tommy and Nikki,
Yeah.
chatting with them, or we're upstairs drinking or whatever we're doing up
Oh,
there.
that just goes without saying.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's,
Tommy, yeah, I remember Tom. I went to school with Tom at Royal Oak High School, and
okay.
he didn't really come in until Motley Crue, really,
That
to
was like
LA.
San Gabriel Valley, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
was it?
We went to
Yeah, that's
school in
what I thought.
Covina, California.
Okay. Yeah,
Covina
that's right.
off Banner Street, and me and Tom were in the same class together at Royal Oak High School,
Okay.
and that's where he met
Yeah.
Vince. Nobody knows that, but that's where he met Vince.
Okay. Well, but that, I remember it's like people were asking me about the Dirt because, oh my God, you knew Nikki and Tommy. Me and Vince, it wasn't like anything bad. I just, I'd say hi to him, he'd say hi to me, but I don't
Yeah.
think we ever really warmed up. Nikki, and Tommy were real. I mean, Tommy gave me this handshake we learned he showed me at Alpine Village at one of those Thursday
Yeah.
nights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still remember that handshake. I was like, well, that was kind of cool. Very soulful, Tommy.
Well, let's do it. How does it go?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it had this whole snap pop,
Yeah, yeah, I
slap your
know.
fist up, down, and then
Yeah.
Elbow hand, the whole thing.
Tommy was
And
very inventive. He always had some new shit, coming up.
he was. Let me tell you something else, dude. That guy could throw punches because I remember when we were at that
That's
Alpine
right.
Village thing, they pulled the plug on Rat, and we were all there to see Steve, because we were all friends. Everybody was kind of friends.
Right.
And Steve kicked over a table, and all these bouncers came up, and it just turned into a melee. There's all these bouncers, and Tommy and Nikki and Rob Crosby was there.
Oh
Everybody's
my
throwing
God.
punches. Chris
Yeah.
Hager looks at me and do you want to join in
Um,
this? I was like, I ain't getting anywhere near this. And I forget who asked me later. It was like,
uh,
we're back up in Hollywood,
yeah,
and
that's
somebody's like,
funny.
dude, why didn't you get in the throw? You look like
Oh,
you can handle yourself. And I
yeah,
said,
yeah,
all those bouncers, all those Samoan guys, they probably
yeah,
go to my church. So
yeah,
I'm not
right.
fighting any one of those guys.
And you could handle yourself. I saw some pictures. You look pretty buff. I mean,
Um,
you had some
I,
arms on you, man.
well, you got to remember, by the time the '70s came around in Carson,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a football school, lots and lots of athletes. If you didn't want to get picked on, you learn to fight. You just, you learn to defend yourself. You learn to stay healthy, and duck when you heard pops. And that's kind of where things went. It's just the ironic thing is that I almost never got in any trouble through high school.
Well, that's
And
amazing.
a friend of mine told me, he goes, I think sometimes looks is enough. Just if you look like you can handle yourself. And I took martial arts and everything, and I
Yeah.
never had I shouldn't say opportunity. I never had a problem where I needed to use anything. Just thank goodness.
Now, did you have a relationship with Chris Hager?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. Was we met when he was playing with Rat,
That's
and
right.
I was playing with that band Sexist, and we decided to venture off on our own. He quit Rat. Um, I remember, there's interviews of him out and about, and this is around 2017 when we had started talking already because we'd lost track for a long time. And there was a girl out in San Diego. He was still living out there, and she connected the two of us, and it was just two old friends, and we were just having a great time talking to each other. And then maybe about 2015, he's like, he goes, I know you and Cherie live in Orange County. I go, yeah. He goes, we're playing the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano. And it wasn't like he asked the question. He goes, you're going. I was like, yes, sir. And he goes, and bring Cherie too, you know. So it's like we were on the guest list, and we went to go see Rat. I think it was a Faster Pussycat.
I remember Faster Pussycat. Yeah.
So this is, you know, mind you, this is all these years later. This is in early 2000s or mid 2000s. Oh, like I said, maybe 2015, 2016 by then.
Right. Right.
So, you know, I talked to Matt for a little while, and, you know, it's good to see these guys again. Cause, you know, the last time I saw Matt was maybe 1985, 84, something like that.
Matt Thor.
You know, we're just chatting with each other. And then he goes, hey, you want to say hi to Steve Piercy? I was like, is he even going to remember me? And he goes, I don't know, but just go up and say hi to him. So he dragged me upstairs, and, you know, he's like, hey, you know, Steve, look who's here. And he goes, you remember? And I said, do you even remember me? And he grabbed me by my lapel and pulled me in and gave me a big hug. He goes, will you stop with the do you remember me shit? And he goes, you know, of course I do. And he gave me a hug, and I forget who the bouncer is, or his, you know, his assistant or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, he goes, hey, dude. And I was like, oh, I couldn't remember his name. I felt so bad, but it was just like, you used to roadie for both of us.
Oh my God.
It was just a trip seeing all these guys. So a couple of years later, Chris calls me up, and it's just, and I was a technician, you know, I fix machines for LA Fitness. So half the time, if there was nothing to do, I'd sit in my van and listen to music or, you know, whatever. Yeah. And he just gives me a call out of the blue. Hey, you know, do you still like to write music? I said, I haven't done it in a while, but it sounds like fun. He goes, would you like to come up to my place and work on some songs? I was like, yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, I started going up there once or twice a week. We started writing, and go ahead.
No, real quick. Now there was an early version of Rough Cutt, and then there was right around 2019 is about the time you got in the band with Rough Cutt.
He and I started writing about 2018.
Okay.
And so what happened was that Dave and him, they would talk off and on, and they had
Chris. You're talking about Chris and Dave.
Chris and Dave would talk, you know, I guess on a regular basis. I don't know if you ever knew about Rough Riot.
No, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so that was a conglomeration because I think Shortino sang for both bands. He sang for Rough Cutt and he sang for Quiet Riot. So it was Shortino.
Oh, I see.
I think the bass player was McNabb, Sean McNabb, the guy's name, right? He played bass for a lot of people, but Sean McNabb. Dave was the drummer, Chris was the guitar player, and Carlos Cavazzo was the guitar player.
Right.
And they didn't play for a long time, but I think Chris wanted out of that. So, you know, we were writing together, and I think it was during the time we were just writing that kind of disbanded. But Dave called him one day, and, you know, Dave's like, well, I hear some music in the background. What's going on? He goes, oh, you know, me and Stephen St. James are writing songs together. Well, man, I'm coming over. I'm coming over. You know, so, you know, and Chris is like, no, you don't have to. And it's like, no, I'll see you guys in a few. And
I'll see you.
You know, and about 20 minutes later, there's Dave at the door, gives me a big hug, and I was like, man, I haven't seen you in a million years, because we were never in a band together, but we were friends. We'd see each other all the time. There was a point that, you know, he's like, man, Steve, me and you should start a band together. I talked to Jakey Lee. He said he'd do it in a hot second. We could get Matt to play bass, you know, and it was just all these old conversations where people always said, wouldn't it be great if? It never came to fruition.
Right.
But Dave was just that kind of guy. You talk to him. He's very enthusiastic.
Oh, he was a great interview. It was a fun interview.
Yeah, well, the guy's hysterical. He's hilarious. But, you know, it was just that kind of thing where, you know, well, he wanted in on the songwriting, and we were talking about getting gigs. And he goes, well, guys, you know, trying to start up a new thing and trying to get a record out or anything like that's going to be a pain in the ass. We're going to start from ground zero. He goes, nobody's using Rough Cutt. Why don't we just do that? And, you know, do you want to do this? And I'm like, look, you guys, you make a decision, you know, just make a decision. I'll follow you, you know, with whatever. So I think we started a LLC, and we made it like Rough Cutt LLC or
Okay.
something like that. So we had the legal, the legal rights to the name, and we just started writing under Rough Cutt. But that helped us kind of get some attention. And I think the first show that we did out was up in Portland. That's how I was telling you I met Pariah and Kevin.
That's right.
But we did a show with LA Guns.
Oh, I remember LA Guns.
That was at Bossa Nova Ballroom. And I got to say hi to Tommy. Nice dude, super nice guy. And then it's funny because what was his name? Ace, the other guitar player,
right?
Ace Von Johnson, I think, right?
I think that's his name. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was it's funny because you think you're talking rock and roll, and he and I are talking about rescuing dogs. And he's just like, oh my God. He goes, because he was saying, do you live in California? I said, yeah, but we're moving up to Idaho in a few years, because we had planned that for a long, long time. And I said, my wife's family, they're on 320 acre ranch, and ultimately, I believe that's going to be our place. We're about 3 miles away from it now because we wanted to have our own place, and our mother-in-law lives over there, but we still work the fields and whatever. Sheree, likes to use the bobcat, get out and mow the lawn.
There you go. I always wanted to do that. Have an open field, do some farming and stuff like that.
Oh, there's a lot of woodlands. It's hysterical because the first year I was there, we had already known that our neighbor across the street was also the doctor for that area. And he rolled up to me on a quad. And he's, hey, Steve, because, again, we knew each other. I was like, hey, what's going on? He goes, where's your sidearm? I go,
where's your sidearm?
In the house. And he goes, look, you're not in Huntington Beach anymore. And I was like,
yeah.
Well, sure. And he goes, you anti-gun? I said, no, it's not like that at all. He said, it's not that. It's just, I'm just not used to it. And he goes, you've been down to the local market in St. Mary's? I go, yeah. And he goes, what do you see? I said, a lot of people with sidearms, just walking around the market shopping, and everybody's, it's like
open carry
movie. Well, yeah, it's an open carry state. He goes, but he goes, it's not a big deal if you're not down there wearing it. He goes, but up here, he goes, there's wild animals outside. And, so I started wearing it. And I remember just one day we're walking our dog, and we're coming to a corner where there's high grass, and then there's alfalfa on the other side. Both of these were about 3 feet high. They hadn't been tended to yet. We're talking to each other, and all of a sudden I see these two black fuzzy ears, and I go, is that a bear? And it hurt me, and it stood up. We were about 15 feet away from each other, and I swear, if the bear could talk, it did the same thing I did. It was like, whoa. The bear is just hauling ass toward this pond and through this tree line, because there's a lot of woodland up there. I'm just standing there with this big grin on my face, and my wife was pissed at me. She's like, listen, next time, could you at least put your hand on your effing gun so I know you're going to protect us? And I'm like, look, bear.
It's a bear. We're just start running.
But that's life up here. We were driving home from a gig about a month ago, and I was like, is that a deer crossing the road? And I was like, no, it's too low. And there goes a mountain lion. It's just looking at us, and it runs across the road and up a hill, and boom, it's gone. It's like, this is one of those places where you see animals that you can only see in a zoo if you live in a city, and they're out in the open.
No, I love it. I love the openness. I live out here in Nevada. I'm away from the city right here. I'm up in Henderson, by Boulder City.
Okay.
I'm up
I know right where you are.
I'm against the foothills right there. In fact,
one of my last guitar player in California, he grew up in Ely.
Okay, Ely's nice.
Yeah,
great fishing up there, hunting.
Yeah, he talked about that too, because he was talking about running into moose way up there, and that place. I mean, the elevation up there is like 6,000 feet.
Yeah, 6,000. I got elk. They got my neighbor just came back with a 600-pounder. It's hanging on his wall. Him and his son go shooting elk.
Well, I'll tell you, if we connect after this is over, I got to show you some videos of the property. We were going to the shop. It's one of those big, huge Quonset huts. It's behind the house. Nice. And we hear this crackle, crackle, crackle. And we stop and we look, and maybe 15 feet away from us on the other side of the fence, these elk are just walking past the shop. They're like maybe 10, 15 feet away. They're not looking at us. We stopped counting at about 200. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy.
Well, we have say hi to the audience. We got some people in the chat room, and we are taking call-ins tonight to talk to Stephen. We're going to be showing a video tonight. It's some Black Roses, or Black Rose, I'm sorry. And Stephen had a hand writing that song, and we're going to play the video tonight. It kind of shows off his performance and his powerful voice. And with his permission, I might show some of the old early Motown stuff later, but that's going to be up to Stephen because it's some pretty funny stuff. And I kind of wanted to get into the conversation, like, how did you get into that?
I'm sure we'll get there.
But I would like to play this video. They love to hear music, Stephen. We're in the first quarter of the interview. And if you don't mind, I'd like to play it.
Not at all. Go ahead.
All right. Let me rewind it real quick because I'm sitting here listening to it. And this is Stephen St. James with Rough Cutt. And he co-wrote on this song as Black Rose, one of their big hits. And you can find it. You can find all his music out there. And let me back it up a little bit because I was playing it earlier. So love the music, by the way.
Thank you.
It's just great stuff. Your voice is just incredible.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I'm a singer, so I'm very critical. And you have a very nice voice. It's just powerful and it's soulful and it's rock and roll, man. And it just sounds great. Love it. So let me cue it up for the audience real quick. Give me 1 second.
You got it.
You got it. And I do post-production on this, so I set up the HD and all that surround sound shit and all that. So gotta make it sound good. Here we go, everybody. This is Black Rose by Rough Cutt, Stephen St. James. Crank it up.
All the broken promises. Are glistening. I saw a side of you I didn't know. All the broken promises, all the dark secrets that you keep, all the falling stars lying a bed of black roses. Ooh, queen of life. 6 in the morning, I can't reach you. Get up and recover, not something they teach you. I saw a side of you I didn't know. I didn't know. Holding on loosely and letting you go. All the broken promises, all the dark secrets roses are black, and I'm never coming back to you.
Very nice.
Thank
Very
you.
nice. Your stage presence is just perfect. You know, your voice, just the band. That's a great song. And did that song ever like take off for you guys? Like, you know,
Nope.
it just
It's just, I think, in fact, that video might be the only evidence that we existed.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, we
incredible.
had other songs. In fact, you know, we were talking about what we should do first. We had, what was it called? Between the Lines. There were like we had about 14 or 15 songs, me and Chris. You know, Dave
Right.
came along, and then, you know, they're saying, well, here's, you know, these other songs too. And I wanted to pick the song Between the Line because Chris said, well, you know, can you do like rap? I said, well, I could pretty much do whatever you want me to do. It wasn't a rap song per se. It was, I don't know if you've heard 6 a.m. What is it? We will not
Yeah,
quietly, whatever.
I have.
You know, how he talks, that, you know, that syncopated talk in between the verses or whatever. I
Right.
did something along those lines, and we're like that too. But, you know, it was just sort of, you know what, why don't we go with the power ballad first? Just a lot more melodic. And, you know, a lot of times you go with a power ballad and everybody's, ooh, you know, but, you know, I know that Chris had health issues. Obviously, we lost him last
Right.
May.
Right.
And it just, the bass player Jeff Buhner, great guy. He had his band Loyal Order at the time. Him
Okay.
and, I don't know if you know Brandon Cook of Black. You know, Brandon Cook plays guitar for Black and Blue.
Right.
But
Right.
they had Loyal Order, and they were getting like huge, you know, play on their music. And then the other guitarist, I don't know if you know Darren Householder. He played for Love Hate. That's the other guitar player in the video.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
he ran a business out of Burbank, and I just think everybody had other commitments, and we just could not.
Yeah.
You know,
You know,
I
it
don't
seems
think anybody can get away with like going out on any long extended tours or finishing up
it,
an album or whatever.
it kind of seems like Rough Cut has been under this cloud, this almost like a plague, like a it's been what do you call it? All the way from the beginning, you know, they should have been very successful. You should have broke through that right in there with Dio, Poison, all the bands that were making it at the time.
Right.
What do you think happened? You know, or why do you think that happened? Or is it just
Uh,
because of the change in band members? Everybody went to Ozzy. Let's see, Jakey Lee was in there, and you
I
had
think Craig Goldie for a while.
yep, Goldie, and then
Yeah.
Amir.
Yeah,
You
Amir.
had
Well,
Paul
Amir
Shirtan.
was, yeah. I mean, so here's the thing. I remember that we were really starting to roll. We had a producer come out, and, you know, he was like starting to record us out at Van Nuys, and we had a studio, and all of this was, you know, we're talking spec time. We're going to make a record, and, you know, this is going to be the next big thing. The producer, I guess he was from he was the engineer and then later produced for Kansas,
Okay.
Brad Aaron. And he was always, I mean, he's a great guy, but super smart. You know, he knew how to get the best out of us. And then just one day I get a call. There was a band that opened for us at the Troubadour.
Okay.
And the guitarist, this guy Howie, I remember this guy was about 6'4", played a flying V. And you just didn't usually see, you know, a lot of black guys playing heavy metal guitar.
Right.
And, you know, we knew each other, but it just, you know, we'd chat backstage, whatever. And, you know, hey, you had a great show, you know, and he's like, hey, go out and kick some ass. I was like, great. And that was a Friday night. And, you know, we're back at our place in Culver City on Saturday, and phone rings. Chris answers it. He's, hey, what's going on? He's chatting. He's, hey, Steve, it's for you. And I grab the phone. Hey, you know, hello. And he's like, hey, this is Howie. You know, it's Howie Rice. He goes, yeah. And he goes, do you like Motown? I was like, well, I grew up in Carson, you know, and of
Yeah.
course, it's par for the course, you know. And so he goes, well, they want to meet you. I was like, who wants to meet me? Well, Motown guys want to meet you.
Well, how old?
Uh,
Not real quick. How old were you when this happened? Because I'm just
I think I was about 23 years old by
so
now.
you're fairly young. Okay.
Yeah. Um, so here's what happens is I go in. I think they were looking for somebody to fit a particular image because I never sang a note. I didn't audition. It was just like he's perfect. He's in, and
Yeah.
that was it.
It's based on your
So
looks.
yeah. So and suddenly there's contracts being shoved at you, and this all happened really fast. I just kind of got bulldozed into this whole thing. I had to tell the guys, hey, listen, I can't do this anymore, and they were pissed. They were pissed. And I talked to the producer Brad, and he was like, he goes, I can't tell you why now, but he goes, I'm so sorry to lose you. So they got another
Yeah.
singer, and they were going to do their first show at the Troubadour with the new guy. They were pissed at me, but I still went to go support. I'm not pissed like we never want to see you again. It was just
Right.
I think we were rolling, we were getting ready to jump off, but didn't happen, right?
Right.
So I'm at the Troubadour, and I grab a table because I figure I'm not singing. I just want to sit down and enjoy it and have a few drinks. And a very soft voice behind me, hey, do you mind scooting over just a little bit? So I can see. And I was like, sure. And I turn around, it's Ronnie James Dio.
Right.
And I was I was like, oh wow, hello. And he goes, hi. I said, my name's Steven. He goes, I'm Ronnie. I was like, I know who you are. And we shook hands. And he goes, do you know the band? I said, well, I used to sing for them. And he goes, used to? I said, well, yeah. I said, I got signed to Motown Records a little while ago, and this is their first gig with the new singer. And he goes, oh, he goes, I came to see you too. It's like, wasn't like, wasn't
Yeah.
like there was an internet that I could say, hey, everybody, I got signed to Motown. But I said, but listen, just
Yeah.
hang around because they're very good. Um, Ultimately, and we chatted for a while. Everybody says, "Oh my gosh, Ronnie James Dio is very nice." Well, he was. He was. We chatted for a while, and he told me at that point, he goes, "So Motown, huh?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "I was in a doo-wop band when I was younger." I had no idea, because the first time I ever heard him was "Man on a Silver Mountain,"
Right.
and I still haven't heard the doo-wop stuff. I know it's out there. I haven't heard it,
You're talking
but
about Ronnie James Dio doing doo-wop.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you could find it. Like if you put Ronnie James Dio doo-wop on YouTube or something, some of those songs will come up. It's
Oh,
it's
wow.
it's just out there. So it was just interesting for me to talk to the guy, but he still picked Matt and Chris from Sarge, and they ended up in Rough Cut. What happened to him along the way, I have no idea by that time because I was busy. I was working with Motown. We were writing the songs for a long, long time.
Right.
And this is like 1983, about, I don't know, maybe halfway through or even three-quarters of the way through 1983. I mean, and we're up in the 25th floor of First Interstate Bank. Motown was actually that First Interstate Bank on Sunset and Vine. And they had like the top 8 floors. So I was kind of secluded at that point, and I remember maybe late 1983 they were doing KMET was doing one of those local licks things,
I remember
and
KMET. Kayla West, KMET.
well, do you remember that they would do like local licks
Yeah.
on signed acts,
Yep.
that
Yep.
sort of thing? I think
I
both
remember basement
KLOF
tapes.
yeah, and
Oh,
one of the bands was Rough Cut,
that's right. I remember that.
and the opening song that they did was Taker. I lived in North Hollywood by this time, and I remember they were saying they're coming up. I hauled ass to get home so I could throw this on my stereo. And I remember hearing Taker, and I was just like, holy crap, these guys are
Okay.
so good. And then the other one was Queen of something that never made it to that. I don't think it made it to either of those albums, but it wasn't, I can't remember what it was. It
I'm
was
looking at the.
Queen
Yeah,
of
I have.
Deception or something like that.
Yeah. I actually have two the early videos queued up, and I was seeing if they were the same songs.
Yeah.
But did you know Rough Cut way back when they first started in the '80s, early '80s? Were you involved at all?
No,
Or
no, no.
okay,
I'd run into Paul Shortino, like I said. I run into him a handful of times.
okay,
I think he was another East Coast guy, very funny, but very nice. In fact, I'd never even heard him. I had never even heard him sing until I heard that KMET thing, and I was like, God, this guy's got
okay,
serious
gotcha.
pipes.
Did you know you'd be singing? Did you know you'd be singing with him someday?
Had no idea. Had no idea.
You
That was
didn't
just
have
that, you know, when you think about it, that was like almost 40 years later that Chris
Right.
called me. So, you know,
Yeah.
I pretty much thought I was just doing cover bands and tribute bands at that point.
Gotcha. Well, you did a hell of a job, and you're covering the. You had to fill in some pretty heavy shoes there with
Oh yeah,
Shortino. You know, I mean,
absolutely.
I was listening to the early Rough Cut songs just before you got on, and I'm like, wow, he's got a great voice, Shortino.
I remember when this all started, we had just released, you know, on video the Black Rose, and I got a call from Ron Keel, and I was at work. I was just like,
Ron.
you know, but you know, he says, hey, do you mind doing an interview? I was like, no, it's like good to talk to you, because I knew Ron.
Yeah.
You know, I think, again, like you said earlier, everybody knew everybody. So we were doing an interview, and he mentioned, he goes, I hope this isn't awkward. He goes, you know, because Paul Shortino is one of my very best friends. I was like, no, it's not awkward at all. I said, you know, I don't, you know, and he asked me about that. I told him, I said, and the same thing I told you, I didn't really know Paul. I didn't know him.
Right.
We were just, we'd see each other and, hey, how are you? It was that kind of thing. But when I, you know, and I told Ron the same thing that I just told you, is when I heard them on KMET, I turned on my stereo full blast.
Yeah.
One, I was happy for my old guys, Chris and Matt. I was thrilled for those guys.
Right.
And secondly, I think this was produced by Tom Allum, who was hot on Judas Priest at the time, and it just sounded magnificent.
Jakey Lee was Jakey Lee playing at the time?
No. He didn't play on either of the albums. That was just the core guys.
Okay.
It was
Gotcha.
Yeah, Chris and Amir were the two guitar players on both those albums.
All right. I'm kind of looking at the bio, trying to draw a timeline here.
Yeah, I think Jake was prior to that. He was prior to them getting signed.
Gotcha. And they were with Warner Brothers back in the day.
Yeah.
Right. With Jakey, and then he went to Ozzy and Amir, and then Julian, Paul Shortino, Quiet Riot, Craig Goldie, and Claudia Chenille with Dio.
Yeah. I think it's Claude Schnell.
Schnell?
I think it's Schnell, because that's what I heard that name come up in other interviews with Chris and Dave. I didn't, you know, I don't think I knew who Claude was, but I knew Craig Goldie.
My eyes are getting bad. You know, I'm getting old.
Hey, I'm a senior citizen.
When I hit 50, I needed glasses, and I think I need to higher power glasses.
Yeah, the only thing that keeps me going now is seeing Rick Springfield at 76, looking how he is, and I was like, going, you know what? Wow. That is my new inspiration right there.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah,
he's out there with Keith Urban, and they're rocking it, man. Him and Keith.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
is he 76?
76 is what I saw on social media. I was like,
he looks good. He's like right there with Sammy Hagar, man. Sammy Hagar was 79 or something.
Yeah, but Sammy Hagar ain't got Rick Springfield's body. I saw Rick Springfield
right
in 2022. We saw him in like God off. We saw him in Vegas. We saw him in Fremont Street. Okay. And you were mentioning John Waite. We saw him with John Waite, and the other band was it Men at Work.
Funny.
And it was like, how did they stick Men at Work in the middle? It didn't even fit the other two.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it was funny because Men at Work, I knew every single song that they did. I knew every single song that John Waite did. Oh, well, it was a trip because it was just, what's his name? Colin Hay or whatever his name was. Yeah. And it was like, he must, you know, when he introduced the rest of his band, I was like, what did he do? Invade Cuba? Because they were all from Mariel and San Jose. It was all Cuban people in his band.
How funny.
But you know, they were tight. They were really tight.
Well, Fremont Street, there's just a mix out there, so you never know what you're.
Oh yeah, right.
That's funny.
Right, exactly. So you know, we were just hanging out there with friends, sweating our balls off. But man, we had a great time listening to music. And of course, Rick Springfield takes his shirt off. I was like, okay, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, at 76. Are you kidding me?
Yep, absolutely.
I got to stop drinking beer if I want to look like that at 76, man. You know. But listen, real quick, I want to announce the phone number so people can call in and talk to Stephen St. James, and you can ask him anything you want. And I think
within reason.
Within reason. So the phone number to call into the show is 669-444-9171, and that's in the USA. 669-444-9171, and you'll want the meeting ID is 702-927-2226. Our meeting ID to get in is 702-927-2226. Give us a call, and we're going to keep the lines open for you during the rest of the interview. But I put the number in the chat, so if you go to the YouTube page, you'll see it in there. I believe that we're streaming live tonight on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, and Rumble. And then tomorrow night or the next night, it goes out again to iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora. I think Sirius Radio grabs it, and about 40 other podcast sites around the world. So I think this show gets to about 104 countries, Steve. And
Wow.
it gets out there, and my listeners are, the numbers are not as high as I'd like them to be, but a lot of people, they don't want to sit and watch for a whole hour and a half. It's like if I was Joe Rogan, they might hang around, but I try to do the best I can. And
I think we live in a TikTok society where if you can't get your message across in 30 seconds or less,
you got to get it out there, man. And I can only do so much, but this is a conversation. And I'm a musician as well, so I can relate to a lot of what Steven's talking about tonight. And the stories, and we were talking about some of the other players he's played with. I did a 3-hour interview with Rick Fox, and he's probably listening right now too. And it was hilarious. He's got a story a mile long, and when he met the drummer for Kiss, and all that, and he dated the sister, I think.
I didn't hear that one. Like I said, it's just he was always, for me, it was just being out in Santa Monica Boulevard in front of the Troubadour. Right. I could talk to that guy for hours. He was a fun person.
I think he got mad because I kept interrupting him. Can we move forward about 10 years? Now let's talk a little bit about. I know you touched on the Motown scene, and you did a pretty. Well, back in the day, I remember seeing MTV and some of those videos. In fact, I mentioned it to Lois, and she was a DJ at a club in California. And she goes, I think I remember that band. And so kind of introduce it. Tell me a little bit about this video I'm about to play, if you allow me to. And just to kind of let people know where you were back then, and then you came forward to Rough Cutt.
So, I mentioned how I got into Motown. And what happened was it was kind of hit and miss. I was just doing lyrics and melody with the manager, Benny Medina. So we were upstairs like all hours, you know what I mean? It was like 2 a.m. we're working on songs. And the only one that had the forethought to ask about the contract was this guy that got me in, Howie Rice. And I guess they didn't like that, and they let him go. And he went on to win a couple of Grammys. He produced Neutron Dance for the Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he also produced Menudo when Little Ricky Martin was in the band. And
my God.
I'm trying to remember what the other guy was, but he did okay. So they're telling me find another guitar player. I was like, where? And the world just everybody on the Sunset Strip. So I'm asking anybody I can, and I don't know how it happened. I think I just walked into the Troubadour, and I see Mark Train, and he's another guy that we'd say hi to each other. And I was like, hey, do you like Motown? And he was like me. He was East LA kid, right?
Right.
So, Carson wasn't that much different than East LA. So we both grew up on that kind of music. And he's like, I'm interested. And so I was like, well, here's the address. Here's the people to talk to. It's pretty much the same way that I got brought in by Howie.
Yeah.
So Mark shows up, and they're talking. So they invite him to Hitsville Studios. That was also in Hollywood. And he comes in and he's playing guitar. And Benny's going, I don't know how much of this I can use. It doesn't fit what we written, because the songs were almost all written by the time I even got there. I just, like I said, I was lyrics and melody.
Yeah.
And so what happens with Mark, Mark, he's playing, and they're like, well, we don't know what we could do with the guitar. I said, wait. Pick one of the songs, ask him to sing. Just watch. And so I think they did, because there's 2 songs on that album that he sings. One's called Emotions, and then the other one's called At 15. And at 15 ended up becoming, I think that was the single. even though the video it was the title cut "Dirty Rats."
Right,
At
right,
15, I remember watching a Dodger baseball game, and yeah, they would have musical segues going into commercials,
right.
and I hear at 15 as the segue in and out of the commercials.
Huh.
And so Mark's saying that, and they're going, this guy, and here's the funny thing: is it sounded nothing. You could tell it's Mark's voice, but it sounded nothing like Bullet voice.
Right.
He was, I was like, this guy's just oozing soul. He had that kind of voice. I constantly think that as good as Bullet Boys are, I think if he went the route of a Michael Bolton or something like that, he'd have made a killing. He was that
Interesting.
he was that good. I think we all kind of knew we had something there. But we're sitting, like I said, me and Benny are writing melodies up in the room, and he gets a call, and he goes, "Yeah, come on up. I'll buzz you in." And knock on the door, and the door opens up, and Michael Jackson walks in, and he's,
Oh,
"Hi,
wow.
Benny," and they hug each other because I guess they grew up together. And he goes, "This is my new
Okay.
superstar, Stephen St. James." He's, "Hey,
Wow.
it's nice to meet you." We shake hands, and he says, "Hey, can I see what you guys are working on?" We show him the lyrics, play him a little bit of the music, and they talk for a little while. And then 5 minutes later, it's, "Hey, it's nice to see you guys, Steve. It's good to meet you. Good luck. Hope everything goes well." And off he goes. Another time, trying to get I had one of those vans with a little bed in it and everything like that, and I'm trying to get into a tiny parking space in this, North Hollywood or Hollywood studio, and some car behind me just lays on the horn. So I flip the bird out the window, and I see some guy jump out, and he's got one of those crochet knit caps on. I'm like, I'm not getting cold cocked in my car, so I jump out too.
Right.
And this bodyguard gets out of the car, and he's probably the smartest of the three of us. And he's like, "Everybody's trying to get to their job. Don't worry about it. Let's just all, let the guy park." So this guy in his Bentley takes off with his bodyguard. I park the car. I go in the studio, and Benny's going, "Hey, listen, we got some downtime." So I'm playing Miss Pac-Man in the lobby while they're setting up the studio. And he goes, "Hey, you want to meet Rick James?" I was like, "Hell yeah."
Rick James.
So we go into the other studio, and when we walk in, there is Lionel Richie, shake his hand.
Wow.
Jim Brown, the football player, gets up, shake his hand. That guy was like,
Yeah.
big old
Does
guy.
he does he sing? I think he had something to do with music, didn't he?
I don't know, but he was just, I knew him I always knew him as a football player and an
Okay. Yeah,
actor.
yeah, yeah.
But then there's Smokey Robinson,
Oh
and,
my God.
and
Yeah.
Benny's going, "You're still singing on the album?" And I goes, "Yeah, I am." And he goes, "This is the guy you're singing with." And it was me, and we shake
Oh,
hands, and,
okay.
um, and and that was that. And then he goes, "Rick, I want you to meet my new superstar." The guy stands up and goes, "Yeah, we met." And it was the guy that we were getting in each other's face
Oh no, are you
outside
serious?
in
In
the
the Bentley?
parking lot. Yeah, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm sorry." I go, "I'm sorry too." We hug each other. I got this. I didn't send it to you, but I got this great picture of me and Rick James.
Well, I'd
And
like to
then
see that. Oh yeah.
yeah, he showed up. He showed up
That's funny.
later
Yeah.
during our when we signed the contract as a band. So he's in that series of pictures where you see me and Mark and Cliff and Jerry.
Right.
He showed up in a couple of the pictures as well. And then we have
How
another
funny.
just informal picture with the two managers. It was Benny Medina, who went on to manage like J Lo and all these other
Wow.
people, and Carrie, and I think Carrie was one of the Gordy family, but he went on
Right.
to like manage like rap music and stuff like that. Um,
It sounds like you were moving into that whole scene. Well, what made you not stick around or move back out into rock and roll?
a lot of tension,
Okay.
lots and lots of tension. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
there were drug problems, there were
Okay.
all kinds of problems, a lot of
Yeah.
internal strife.
Right.
My manager actually, he was under contract with Motown too. And what happened is he told me, he goes, "You are like the closest thing to family I got." And he goes, "I hate seeing you stuff. I hate seeing you suffer." He goes, "If I can write you out of the contract, you gotta just not join another band for about the next 6 months, 8 months." I was like, "That's fine." And he got me out of the contract legally. I don't know how he did it. Maybe it was
Yeah.
legal. I
But
hope.
he was kind of
But I
saving
went
you.
on.
He was saving your life,
Yeah,
kind of.
I went
Yeah.
out and literally got myself a day job at Toyota. Close to where I
Yeah.
grew up. I wanted to get out of Hollywood. I wanted to get out of LA. So they hired another singer. and they started going in a rap direction, and I think that lasted all of about another 6 or 7 months, and it fell apart. So the best thing I could say about that was that I got to work with some people I never in my life would have dreamed. I think I sent
Yeah.
you a couple of songs. One of them is called FM, and I sang. There's like one little part in there where I sang in the answer back. It's like one of those, I sing a line and then there's an answer back. And at first it's a lady. I don't know if you know who Mary Clayton is.
I've heard the name. I've heard the name.
She's the female voice of Gimme Shelter.
Oh, okay.
So that was me and Mary Clayton.
Oh, wow.
And then, yeah, I say Mama says, and she says an answer back. And then I say Daddy says. Well, that's Dennis Edwards who's saying Cloud Nine for the Temptations.
Oh, okay.
And then the sax on that is Junior Walker.
That's incredible.
Who played, the sax solo on Urgent by Foreigner, among other things. And then, I did a duet with Smokey Robinson on that album.
It sounds like you were in pretty close contact with these legends of soul. Yeah. You know,
and
what I'm saying?
I said, one of those things where when you're, it's like, I wish I knew then what I knew now.
No, I got you.
Had I known who, I knew who these people were because I grew up listening to that music.
Of course.
But, I would have taken more time to get to know them, to, pictures, whatever. There was no smartphones, but would have got one of those little wind-ups that you take down to the.
Well, that was back when we didn't have the internet like we do right now.
Photo map booths or whatever.
Hey, listen, we got a caller. We got a caller coming in.
Okay.
Somebody wants to talk to you, and are you ready to take a call?
Sure.
Okay.
I hope so.
Might be an ex-girlfriend or something coming in. Just kidding. Let me bring them in. I'm gonna have to go gallery real quick so we don't show their phone number. Okay.
Sure.
And welcome to the Dean Vaughn Music Podcast Show. You're with Stephen St. James from Rough Cutt. Who do we have on the phone?
My name is Kathy.
Hi, Kathy. Hey, are you in the chat by any chance tonight?
I was, yes.
I saw you. Say hi to Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
Hey, Kathy. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you.
Good. Hey, we love watching you locally in Gigawatt, but I'm just wondering. Yes. And I wish you would come to North Spokane a little more. But anyway, we're just wondering, are you still writing music? And if so, will we be able to hear any of your originals?
You know what? I have been just. If you're familiar with where I live in North Idaho, I live in Harrison.
Yes.
I don't know if you know Lee from Bruiser.
Yes.
Bruiser Spokane.
Yep.
He had made a joke to me, or he had posted something that I think his day job is a realtor. He had posted stuff that every house needs, and I wrote him. I said, Lee, I don't need that. And he goes, yeah, but you live in the boonies. And I laughed. I told him, I said, I wanted to come up with some witty answer, and then I said, but then I realized, oh shit, he's right. We do live in the boonies.
Hey, so do I. We live up north of Deer Park.
Okay. I know where you're talking about.
And we still came to Coeur d'Alene to watch you.
Well, thank you very much. I know. I we appreciate whoever comes out to see us because, this is very different than Southern California. Nothing is close to anything else here.
Thank God.
Right.
I know that we last Halloween we played Kelly's, which is right at the way up there by Canada, but it's like right at the border of Washington and Idaho, where it's like we're standing with our legs apart. Look, one leg's in Idaho and one leg's in Washington. Like,
yep, we've been to Kelly's many times.
Yeah, how tourist can you get? But yeah, I have, I'd come up with some stuff. It's just finding, I don't know if you know that Matt Smith is our guitarist now.
Okay.
But, it's one of those guys that I thought, well, this is somebody that I would talk to about maybe working on studio stuff because I know he knows his stuff. And I think I would be comfortable with that because I had very specific ideas of what I wanted to do. We had played at Fizzy Mulligan's, and I'm sure you know where that is. And that was
we've seen you there.
Yeah, one of the first weekends that we were there, I had, I think, about 4 different people ask me if I'd record with them. And I was saying, well, what kind of music do you guys do? And they were like, well, we're metal. And all four of them were metal. I said, listen, if I'm going to do any recording, I don't want to do metal. I said, I could sing rock, I said, but I said, the stuff that I'm writing would be more what you would call adult, AOR, adult oriented rock. Like we were talking about Rick Springfield, like more pop type of stuff, or even more R&B influenced music, because that's what I grew. I was doing gospel and R&B well before I was doing rock and roll.
Mm-hmm. It's funny how many singers start that way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because a lot of the histories I've read or heard in interviews, they sound almost exactly the same. It's just,
but don't do metal. Metal's too hard on your voice.
Well, if you've heard me sing with Gigawatt, you know the kind of music I sing, and I'm sure you know my voice. Yeah. But I lean more toward that kind of singing. I like stretching it and Steve Perry.
Do what you're good at.
I could do that guy. So that's the kind of stuff I'm looking at. And even I think about it. When I was listening to Steve Perry's history, his favorite singer was Sam Cooke, and Sam Cooke was just one of these blues guys from back in the 50s. And I thought, what an amazing singer to pattern yourself after. Yeah, and when you listen to him, you could really hear the influence from Sam Cooke's voice.
Right.
Anything else? Because it's great talking.
No, I don't think so. I think I saw that you guys are going to be downtown soon.
Yeah, week? We are
at the winery.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks. It's the 14th. We're at Barrister. Yeah, we're at Barrister. 2 weeks.
Okay, well, we're going to try to see you there.
Fun places to play.
Yeah.
Well, they're all fun places to play.
Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. Kathy, it's been great watching It's been great watching the podcast. It's awesome.
Kathy, thank you for chiming in tonight. You also win the coveted Dean Vaughn Music Podcast mug, and it has Stephen. Can you see a picture of it right there?
I can't. Oh, wait.
Hang on.
No, that's your microphone. I see it.
Oh, yeah, I do see it on the TV. I do. We have it on TV and big screen.
It's basically the cover of the show with Steven's picture on it. It's a beautiful 11. It's a coffee mug. I'm going to send it out to you, but can you do me a favor and send me your address?
Sure will.
So my email is Dean, D-E-A-N.
Hang on just 1 second.
You got it. I got to be able to send it out to you.
Okay, so Dean
at deanvaughnmusic.com. Just send me your email, your mailing address, and I'll shoot you that out first thing in the morning.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you for calling in. Thank you. Anything else, Kathy, before you go?
No, that'll do it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Kathy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Awesome. That was awesome.
That was fun.
Gigawatt. Is it Gigawatt?
Yes.
I forgot to mention it, and I didn't know if you wanted to talk too much about that. This is what, a cover band you're in?
Yeah. We call it an MTV tribute because all we do is like all the big hits from MTV.
Okay.
Money for Nothing, bunch of Journey songs. I don't know, Cutting Crew. It's REM. Tears for Fears.
You're singing some pretty challenging stuff. You're doing Steve Perry.
Yeah, they realized they're like, wait, you could do, we did Girl Can't Help It.
Oh,
because everybody in the band sings.
Yeah.
And they're, well, wait, you could sing that? I said, well, yeah, and they're okay. So they threw in like 6 Journey songs.
Yeah.
One of them that wasn't an MTV song was Starship's Jane.
Oh my God, I said, Mickey Thomas.
Now that's a challenge,
one of my favorite songs as a singer.
Yeah, and it was like funny because they'd always throw it in the 4th set. I was like, why do you guys throw that in the 4th set when I've already sang like 30 or 40 songs?
Oh, what a great song. But yeah.
I don't, that whole Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, I use that. And I tell the other guys, you should do this backstage with me. You should do the warm-up.
Yeah. Now, did you have any formal vocal training? I just have to pop that in. Because I know Ron Kill and I had the same vocal coach back in the day. Her name was Elizabeth Sabine. Now
I remember Sabine.
Now Sabine was my vocal coach for a little while. She's great.
I think I spoke to her on the phone. But I remember her. I remember back. You remember when it was paper media, and I think she was in Music Connection and Band Magazine. She had run the ads and stuff like that. I had, oh my gosh, I can't even remember her name. I had, when I was very young, I had a lady that was doing piano, you know, I just on her piano, and then later at church. But I'll tell you where I got most of that little 5'5" vocal teacher that scared the hell out of me was assigned to me at Motown.
Okay.
And that was that one human that I was just afraid to be in the room with, because she was just mean. But she got, you know, she got me singing. She says, listen, the guys from Motown, the Temps, the Four Tops, all these guys, you know, they go out, they sing when they're sick. They said, there's no such thing as I can't make it tonight. You just, you know, you learn. And it was, you know, that bel canto method.
Yeah.
But that was where I got most of my vocal training. And that was after I signed a contract.
Well, you know, because you have such a great voice. And I figured, you know, and you're talking about, you know, the way you warm up and all that. And you know, Elizabeth Sabine warmed up Jeff Tate from Queensryche. And she I remember that was her, and Ron Keel was her star pupil. She always talked about Ron. And then she talked about Jeff Tate warming him up for every show when she would go to Queens. And she passed away, I believe.
Oh, it's too bad. I mean, I remember she was kind of one of those iconic names that I would see constantly. You know, it's funny too, because I didn't even know this until he was older, but Brian J. and I were friends of Keel. Okay. And, you know, he's, hey, Steve, you know, would you mind coming over to my place in Redondo Beach and just helping me? Because he had a music library, you know, one of those taxi services type of things. And so he would have me sing just scratch tracks on different songs. And we talked a lot about Ron and just various stuff, you know, so it was just kind of neat. That was another one of those things that kind of pushed me toward getting back into, you know, into regular cover bands and whatnot. But
okay, real quick. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but are you ready to have some fun?
Sure, let's have some fun.
I got that video queued up.
Oh Lord.
Okay, Lord. Everybody brace yourself. And I just feel like I have to play this because it really.
I'll just go with this. Wasn't my idea.
Okay, hold on. Let me set the parameters and let's everybody. This is Stephen St. James, but this is what's the name of the band again, real quick?
It was Kagny and the Dirty Rats. Again, that was Benny's idea. Kagny and the Dirty Rats. There was no Kagny, and I guess we were just the Dirty Rats.
Let's play it. Let's play it for the audience. Let's have some fun.
Look, we were number 2 on the playlist.
There you go. Let's do it. Crank it up.
Never sure just what we'll do. have some awesome fun. Hey, if you're bold enough, you'll be hanging tough with the dirty rats. Oh, people do anything to be on the scene with the dirty rats. Smooth and slinking, classic kinky, never should, just what we'll do. Hey!
Oh my God.
It was like a high school project gone awry, you know.
I love the fog. They bring the fog in, and the dance, the choreography was just incredible. It took me way back. Took me back.
Yeah, it's just, well, you know, I think Chris Hager said it best. He goes, you know, I think what they were looking to do is try and create a boy band, you know, like kind of a pop, semi-rock boy band out of it, and I that's all I got.
But it looks like you look good.
This is what happens. Thank you. This is what happens when you don't have any parental guidance behind the project.
And then you moved into Rough Cutt. You just completely switched gears, and it turned out good for you. But I can see why you might have left that scene. I don't know.
It was different.
It was different. How fun. You know, you've had such a fun career, though. You know, you have to experience that. I mean, I kind of did a little bit of, experimentation early on when I was 14, 15, playing with the guys in the neighborhood and this and that. And I was in Aftershock. And that was back in 1978, 79. I was only 14 years old. But, you know, you kind of mold yourself. You find yourself. And what do I really want to do? You know, as a lead singer or as a performer or a guitar player, whatever you're doing, or songwriter. And speaking of songwriting, were you writing songs back that early in your career?
Oh, you know, just I think I may have been like 18, 19 years old when I started it. Just back then it was just simple stuff, but we ended up making songs out of it. And then, you know, when Chris and I got together, it got better. The song, you know, because let's face it, if you're playing the Troubadour, you had to, you know, by the time you're headlining, you have to have 13 or 14 songs that people want to hear,
right?
You know, and if they're singing along with it and remembering it, you know, you're doing a pretty good job. And
like Gazzarri's. You know, I remember Gazzarri's. I had to play 3 sets, and there's no way I had that much original material. You know, we had like maybe 15 original songs that I would play out in front of the public. And Bill Gazzarri would say, "Dean, I need you to play all night long." I'm like, "Bill, I don't have that many songs." He goes, "Just play. I want to keep people at the bar just till 2 a.m. I go, "All right." I became good friends with Bill Gazzarri, and he was
quite the character.
He was a lot of fun, and he wanted to get out of the business. He kept telling me, "Dean, I want to get out of this business." Like, you can't. You've launched so many new bands, Bill, and I would have long talks.
I try to remember the doorman's name, and
Pete. It was Pete. Guy. The tall redheaded guy was Pete, and the small Chinese guy was Russell. Russell and Pete.
I'm talking about the brother. You know, he was like, y'all stink, and he would always, every band, it didn't matter.
What was his name? There was Russell, Pete, and I forgot his name.
Yeah, but I remember Russell and Pete, but him, he's like, y'all stink.
You guys are badass motherfucker.
He did that with every band that came through that place.
Oh, I hated to see that whole team go down there and became some other club, the Glee Club or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I know. It's rough. From what I understand, the whole Sunset Strip scene is disappearing into some mega hotel or something like that.
Oh my God. It's just, I remember when it became another club, I go, I don't even want to go. I don't want to go. I remember when they remember all the stages they had on the top, and then they built that bottom stage, the main stage. Do you remember that? And I finally got to play on that big stage down there with Danger. I was lead singer. But man, you know, all those clubs, they help so many bands get their, you know, figure out who they are and go out and play live. And then they went on, you know, like Quiet Riot and all the bands went on to do bigger things. But thank God for them.
That was interesting. Because I remember, I took a long, not a long time. I think when you're young, everything seems like a long time, and then when you're looking back at your timeline, you're going, that was only like 8 months. Because
Yeah.
when my contract came, when I was done with Motown, the checks stopped coming in. I looked to start another band and uh, found this drummer out of Torrance named Glenn, and he goes, "Well, what about holding an audition for bass players?" So I just put out one of those ads looking for bass players, and I had decided to go to San Pedro to the Waters Club. I don't know if you remember that place. And
Vaguely, vaguely.
these different bass players start coming up to me talking, and we hear you're looking for looking for a bass player, and I remember auditioning at Olympic Studios in LA, just outside of Culver City, and Lonnie of Bullet Boys came in, and he smoked the whole thing, and then later I'm looking for a guitar player, and I just happened to be in Guitar Center in Hollywood on Sunset Strip, and there's Mark Kareen, he's working there, and he's going, "You're starting a new band?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, I'm going to be your guitar player."
Nice.
Okay. So that's how Lonnie and Mark met. Well, me and Mark, you know, outside of music, he might as well have been my little brother. It was that kind of thing. But both of us, I think, had very strong opinions and strong personalities. It wasn't anything bad. It was just one of those things where it didn't work out because we both wanted to do things a certain way. So he left, and within 2 days, I get this guy who I've never met, and turns out it's CC DeVille,
Oh wow.
and he ended up playing with St. James because it was me,
Oh,
Mark,
okay.
Lonnie, and Glenn Mancaruso in St. James, and then when, like I said, when Mark left, it was CC DeVille, and that what happened was we played at the Troubadour, and Poison was there, and we're upstairs, and they're not bad, but Cece's just going, "Oh my God, look at these guys! Look how they dress! These guys are great! These guys are great!" Um,
Right.
uh, we had a mishap at that same studio with that same producer I talked about earlier,
Yeah.
and I just lost it. I think what happened was it was just years of frustration, and I
Yeah.
just lost it. It was about 3 in the morning. Everything was sounding great, and the drummer busted a drum head, and it's maybe 3 in the morning,
Oh my God.
and he didn't have a spare, and I lost it. I was just like screaming at everybody. It was just like, I'm done with this. I feel like an old guy, and I shouldn't feel like an old guy. I'm only 26 years old.
Right.
And
Jeez.
I just left. I left. I didn't talk to anybody for 3 or 4 days. And when I finally got a hold of this producer, I said, "I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I don't want to sing anymore." I said, I'm tired of it.
Mm.
Um, you know, and it just disbanded it. And I didn't. I think after that, um, I had a friend call me up from Orange County and ask if I'd do covers, and they were just looking for me as an interim singer till they found another singer. So I went out and played at this place called the Marquee. It was off the
Remember the
22.
marquee? Yeah.
Yeah. And we were like the house band, Skin Tight. And it was supposed to be 2 weeks until they got a new singer. Ended up being about 4 months. And then, that was it. But I remember thinking, God, it's more fun being in a cover band. It's just less headache,
Right.
less this, less that. But by the time I was done with that, I went into paramedic school at
Oh,
night, and I was working as an insurance agent with my dad. I got married in '91, and I was just like, you know what? I don't want to sing. I'm just done. I don't feel
yeah.
like doing that anymore. So when we
I can
got
relate.
married,
Yeah.
yeah, Cherie would always drop hints. She would always drop hints. You should sing. You should sing.
Yeah.
And I finally got to the point where I said, I just don't want to put out that commitment anymore. The business was,
Hmm.
I didn't
No, I'm
want to
with
have
you.
anything.
I'm with you
Yeah, you're
100%
right.
on that. I took a 10-year sabbatical because
Yeah.
I was so
And
frustrated by the business.
yeah, it took her 14 years, and she finally said something that made sense. She goes, you always equate singing to the music business. She goes, why don't you think about how it felt when you did your first
Mm,
backyard party or
yeah.
played that first club or whatever? And I was just
Right.
like,
Right.
that doesn't sound too bad. So when I started looking for bands again, I think I was about 46 years old, 45 years old. One of the early bands I ended up in was, again, it was like this 13-piece band. It was like history repeated itself. And we did songs by Tower of Power and Earth, Wind and Fire and Chicago and
funk and soul. You're like on R&B stuff.
All R&B stuff again.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like heaven. And then, I found another band on the side, and we were driving out of Orange County down to San Diego 3 nights a week. And that was like more classic rock covers. And then, from there it was another band and another band and another band until I finally got into something that really worked for me. And I found this band out of Huntington Beach called Thank You Drive Thru. I had to ask him after about 2 years, like, how on earth did you get the name Thank You Drive Thru?
What?
And it was Thank You Drive Thru. And
Thank You Drive Thru.
It was something from Beavis and Butthead.
Oh my!
And I'd never watched Beavis and Butthead, so I would have never known that because they started in the '90s. That band lasted about 30 years, but I was like one of their last singers, and I think I was in that band for about 12 years, and we had a blast. And from Thank You Drive Thru, we ended up starting a Foreigner tribute.
Oh, nice.
Called Urgent LA, and it did really well.
I bet you did really good, and your voice would just cover Lou Gramm. Great.
I got to touch bases with you after this is over, and I'll send you some videos of that too, because we did a lot of shows out at Rock Yard, and most of the stuff that we filmed for Urgent LA was out at Rock Yard too, because that was like that was a great venue out in Indio, California. It was Fantasy Springs Casino. But, I realized there's no way in hell I'm ever going to look like Lou Gramm. So I figured I'd go for Kelly. I got this expensive wig and I look like Kelly Hansen. It's like that works, Well,
you don't want to look like Lou Gramm anyway.
Well, I don't want to say anything bad, but, but yeah, that's what I did right before we moved here. And then when we got up here, we had a bunch of friends that moved up here because they saw pictures of what we would, whenever we'd come up. So there were a whole bunch of people up here. Steve, you got to get in a band up here. I was like, look, it's not like I could just run out and find a band. We're about 50 minutes from anywhere, and, I ended up guest singing with this other band. Like the girl in the band that sang, I didn't know that she used to sing for this band Gigawatt. And they constantly invited me to, we're playing here, we're playing there, we're playing there. Why don't you come out and sing a few? And we became friends along the way. And so what happened was she called my bass player and said, you never come and see me, whatever. And when I asked her, because he came out to see the band, but I happened to be singing, and that's when they talked to me afterwards, and that's how I ended up in Gigawatt.
Okay.
But what happened was I asked her, I was like, Heather, did you set this up? And she's like, she would never say anything. So I asked John, I said, did Heather set this up? He goes, oh my God. He goes, I walk in and see Heather and you're up singing. And she's like, you got to hear this guy. You got to get this guy. And, it worked out. They're all older guys like me, and they're all serious. I mean, serious, but not like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. It's just, we put a lot of money into the show. We have a ton of lighting. We have like these big trestles behind us with, computer monitor screens showing all of this 80s regalia while we're playing, like cool. Record covers from the 80s and little little scenes from movies from the 80s, and just news events, who won and it'll say like 1980 1981 1982, and it'll show all of these events from that particular time.
Are you the only singer in Gigawatt?
I'm front man, but everybody in the band does sing. So there'll be there's times like, the drummer, he'll sing Tears for Fears or REM, and I'll do the backgrounds and I'll play,
so you guys all participate in the vocals a little bit.
And it's fun because that gives me time to
take a break,
recuperate, and then when we're doing all the heavy lifting for singing, it's like, okay, I'm good to go.
Refreshed. Like when you hit the Steve Perry stuff, man, you gotta
absolutely
be ready,
absolutely.
And Mickey Thomas and Jane, you got a great voice. But I was in a classic rock band called Crossroads for 11 years, and we recorded 2 original songs that I wrote, and then the band broke up, And
that's always rough too.
I know. And we did two. The guitar player went to Mexico. He's out in what is it called, San Felipe. So he just left, and I moved to Vegas, and I'm up here, and I decided, well, why not do a podcast show? That might be fun. But music is still in me, man. And it always will be. You know,
I think that just becomes an inherent part of who we are. I don't think it really does. Like I said, Rick Springfield, 76 years old. I don't think it leaves you. I just, I think it's just something that is always going to be there. It's a gift that was planted inside of you. And I think, we do what we do because it helps other people feel good, which in turn helps us feel good.
And it motivates you, right? Because you're giving away, you have a gift, and you have a voice that not a lot of people have. And for you to hide it or not show it, or give it away, if you will, you have a gift. And people keep telling me that, Dean, go out and play and all this. I'm like, oh. And, I go back and forth with it. It's tough because I'm getting older,
Yeah. Tell me about it, losing body parts here, and I'm still out there trying to play guitar.
You got to keep your body parts, man.
Hilarious, because if you look at that picture, but that you have in the background, and I'm holding up my hand, you can see my middle finger looks like it's bent. It ain't bent; it's just missing from the knuckle up.
I didn't even notice. Holy shit! It's so funny. We can laugh at ourselves, and I think that's what makes life fun. Is we can laugh at ourselves. That's why I had to play that video.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's just I think you can't take this stuff too seriously. I think, again, like you said, it's a gift. Sometimes it's going to bring you joy, and sometimes you're just going to look back and say, oh my God, look where I came from.
Right. Yeah. And it's just fun, and I'm so glad I got to meet you. I've heard about you. I've heard about a lot of people, but doing this podcast show, I get to get up close and personal, which is fun. We're actually we're just having a conversation about the old days and how did we get here and what are we doing now. It's a real simple conversation, but I think a lot of people can read into it and understand what you've been through as a entertainer, vocalist, songwriter, singer, and all that. So I really appreciate the fact that you agreed to do the interview, and thank you for coming on the show.
This has been just fun for me.
Good, good. I'm glad. I'm so glad. And I was talking to Sherry. She's like, you sent me like 5 emails for the show. And I go, I know, but my software keeps failing on me. And I swear to God, your show like disappeared 4 times. And I went, where did the show go? It was on Zoom. It lost the meeting. I'm like, come on. So I sent that last one. She goes, you sent me 4 invitations. Which one is it? I go, Sherry, I don't know. I think it was Sherry that said that. Or was it you? I don't know.
It was her.
And she's like, you sent me 4 invitations. I go, yeah, okay, just do the last one.
There you go. Just go with the last
one of them has to work. But
so are you on Facebook as Dean Vaughn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dean Vaughn.
I'll shoot you a friend request because it would be fun to stay in. It would. Yeah,
please
stay in touch.
Please stay in touch. And also Rick Fox is on there. He shoots me links every day.
I'll do the same thing. I'll shoot him a friend request. Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like when I started up again, it's like, oh, who did I have on here again?
Who did I have?
I remember.
I lost my address book.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying. That's what I love about Facebook and just social media is I'm staying in touch with me. You remember with like the high school reunion where you had to pay like $24.95. You became a member.
Classmates.com.
Classmates.com. Yeah.
I still get emails from them. I was like, I don't pay you guys. I just go to Facebook.
Just go to Facebook. Well, that was back. Yeah.
I found friends from elementary school.
Yeah.
I mean, that far back.
Right. And my name did change. I'll use Dean Shea back in high school. And Tommy Lee was Tom Bass. So I was Dean Shea and he was Tom Bass. And so people are like looking for Dean Shea. I go, no, I'm Dean Vaughn. So I don't know if I lost people or what, but if you could find someone, if you look for
By the way, everybody, I'm not Cherie Santiago. That's my wife. I'm using her computer because
I was going to have you change the name. He's not Sherry.
It's Cherie. It's Cherie. It's my computer's downstairs, and downstairs we don't get good connection downstairs. Like
and I'm having an interview with Sherry Santiago today.
Yeah, we're living in the boonies.
I want to come out. Check. We're me and the other half are getting ready to do some traveling. I'd love to see your place out there. That'd be fun.
It's a beautiful place.
I'll bet. I just don't want to run into any damn bears out there.
Well, we're, when we moved away from the ranch, like I said, we're about 3 miles down because, my mother-in-law's health ain't that great. So we just want to make sure that we're able to get down there if we need to. But we literally, I'm looking at you, but right over the computer screen, like I said, the curtains just blacked out, but we have like one of those big bay windows.
Gotcha.
You open it up and literally right outside there's Lake Coeur d'Alene.
Wow. How
And
beautiful.
that's our view every morning. When it snows, it's gorgeous. When it's sunny, it's
Oh
gorgeous.
my God.
The only time it's not gorgeous is when there's fires over in Washington and we get all the smoke over here.
Gotcha. So you actually in Coeur d'Alene out there?
No. We're in a place. We're about 50 miles southeast of Coeur d'Alene in a place called Harrison.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we'll have to hook up. Well, we'll stick around. I'm going to do an outro video and we'll chat when I'm going to cut the live feed. So let me play that. And everyone, I want to thank you for watching the show tonight with Stephen St. James. And you want to say anything to your audience before we leave, James? St. James.
That's okay. Listen, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I hope it was fun for you. And if any of you folks are fans of Gigawatt, I hope to see you at the shows. Come and say hi and say, hey, I saw you on the podcast. Love to say hello to you. Anyway, thank you so much.
That's awesome. Thanks. I'm going to play an outro video. And everyone, thank you and don't forget to subscribe, everyone, in the chat room over there. Subscribe to the show so you can see who's coming up next. I got a great show coming up next Thursday live. And I want to thank Stephen St. James for coming on the show tonight. Here we go.
Cool.
Stick around, brother. I'm going to play this video. Las Vegas.
I don't see traffic up here.
Good night.